Welcome back to another episode of the Diabetes Digital Podcast presented by Food Heaven. In today's mini-sode, we're going to talk about fruit and blood sugar.
Welcome to the Diabetes Digital Podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Jess, and we're best friends, registered dietitians, and diabetes educators.
Through our telehealth platform, diabetesdigital.co, we offer accessible and personalized virtual nutrition counseling for people with diabetes and prediabetes.
Visit diabetesdigital.co, that's C-O, to book your first appointment. We accept insurance and offer affordable self-pay options. Now, let's get into today's episode.
So I have some really exciting news to share. If you are new here, I just have to give you a little bit of context. So at Diabetes Digital, we are a team of dietitians, and our mission is to help people improve their blood sugar and metabolic health through weight-inclusive, culturally humble nutrition behavior coaching that focuses on helping people improve their relationship with food. And we have seen 1,500 patients since we started at the beginning of 2024, and we've done 11,000 visits, which I can't even believe. That's insane. We've heard a lot from our patients anecdotally, and we've seen lab values anecdotally that they're having these big changes, but we wanted to look clinic-wide at all of the data and see what it was telling us. So we hired a data analyst, and I, for one, almost fell out my seat when I saw the results of our work with patients. So I'm going to go through them very quickly, and then I'm going to tell you a very special offer that we have for people in January. So if you have been thinking about working with a dietitian, if you've been putting it off and waiting for the perfect time to start, it is now. So in terms of the outcomes, for people with type 2 diabetes, we looked at A1C, which is the average marker of your blood sugar over a 3-month period of time. And what we found was, on average, our patients' A1C dropped by 1% in 6 months, which is amazing. So for example, if somebody with diabetes started it with an A1C of 7.5%, on average, it would land at 6.5%. This is better than the industry standard. It's also in half the time. Typically, it can take up to a year to see these changes, but we're seeing them in 6 months. And we tested people at 6 months and also at a year. And we found that by the year mark, they still had the improvement. So it wasn't something that was short term, and it wasn't habits that they couldn't maintain. The other things we looked at were cholesterol. We looked at fasting glucose. We looked at triglycerides. We looked at LDL cholesterol, and all of those saw drops. So for example, fasting glucose dropped 32 points. Total cholesterol dropped 20 points. LDL dropped 10 points. It honestly blew all of our mind. Now, some other things that I really loved to hear was that 96% of our patients said that they improved their relationship with food. And they cited things like more balanced eating patterns, more flexible mindset around food, reduced food guilt. I was just so happy to see it. Also, 96% said that they feel like they've adopted positive wellness behaviors, and 100% said that they felt confident maintaining their habits. So with all of this in mind, if you start care this month and you have your visit with your dietitian, we're going to pay for your A1C, your cholesterol, your LDL, your triglycerides, your fasting glucose, your HDL. Now, you're going to have to get your labs at LabCorp because that's a clinic that we are partnering with. And one caveat is, unfortunately, this is not going to apply to people in New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. You guys just have different state laws when it comes to labs. So if you want to get the labs done, head over to diabetesdigital.co, that's .co/quiz, sign up, have your first visit, and tell your RD that you want your free labs. Again, that's diabetesdigital.co/quiz. Sign up, tell your RD you want the labs. Now is the time. Now let's get to the episode. So the question we got from our listener was, does fruit actually spike my blood sugar too much, or is it totally okay to eat? I love this topic. It comes up a lot. We had a similar episode to this, I think, a year and a half ago, and it was really popular. So we figured it would be a good idea to revisit this in the new year with a mini-sode. Fruit gets a lot of unnecessary fear, I think, in the general public, but especially in the diabetes and pre-diabetes world. So today we want to reframe the fruit conversation. Now, to start, I want to talk about what does fruit include. Now, fruit includes sugars, natural sugars, because they're naturally occurring in fruit, fiber, which helps to slow the release of sugar into the bloodstream, as well as vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Whether or not you have diabetes or prediabetes, a rise in blood sugar after fruit is normal. Not all glucose rises are harmful to your body either. I know that there's a lot of fear mongering out there, like, oh, you could never have glucose spikes and glucose spikes are the devil, but that's not true. Your body is built to handle carbohydrates. And if you are someone with diabetes and prediabetes, and if your body has a harder time handling carbohydrates, you're most likely having modifications or medications that are helping make it easier for your body to handle, which means you can incorporate food and carbohydrates into your diet. So avoiding fruit is really unnecessary regardless of your status, diabetes, prediabetes, because fruit can mean you're missing so many important nutrients and also joy. I feel like when I think of summer, I think of watermelon, I think of cantaloupe, I think of strawberries, honeydew, and those things bring me so much happiness. And I couldn't imagine a world in which I was, terrified of eating those things and never ate them. So let's talk about the difference between whole fruit and juice, because this is something that gets really misconstrued in the media. As I mentioned, the fiber in whole fruit helps to slow down digestion. And by slowing down digestion, even though fruit contains carbs, the fiber within the fruit slows the release of the carbs into your bloodstream. Juice, on the other hand, the process of making juice is extracting the fiber. So you have a faster spike of blood glucose, or your blood glucose is going to raise more quickly if you have juice. Dried fruit can also have more carbs because it doesn't have any water in it. So you're going to probably eat more volume of dried fruit than you would of the actual fruit. And so it is important to be mindful when we are having dried fruit that we look at serving sizes, especially if you are concerned about your blood glucose. We look at serving sizes. We pair it with something else that has protein and fat. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Like you can easily have 20 pieces of dried apricot, which would be the same as having 20 apricots, but you wouldn't eat 20 apricots in one sitting typically. So it just does give you more of a chance to have more volume of that food. And it will include the fiber, but you're getting all of those natural sugars as well, like times 20. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. Now, let's talk about fiber, portion, and pairing. Here are some foods that have high fiber, some fruits specifically, berries. I love recommending berries. I get the Wyman's berries they're everywhere. They're at Sprouts, they're at Whole Foods, I believe also at Costco, but Costco has its own berries. And I get them frozen because it's cheaper. And 1 cup of the frozen berries, or really any berries, has 7 grams of fiber, which is awesome because women need about 25 grams of fiber per day. So that's almost 1/3 of your fiber need. So I'm getting that out of the way first thing in the morning within my smoothie. Also, apples with the skin, pears, those are other examples of fruits that are higher in fiber. And it's great if you can incorporate those many days. You know what they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Kidding. Okay, now what are some lower fiber fruits? The fruits that just may not have as much fiber. Watermelon, pineapple, still great. Love them to pieces, like I mentioned, but those might be ones, all fruits, but especially those might be really helpful to pair with a protein or fat so that we are having that food in addition to the fiber help slow the release of the sugar into our bloodstream and slow absorption. So another thing to keep in mind is timing matters. So fruit after meals may spike your blood sugar less. Since you're having that meal beforehand, it's kind of going to blunt the effects of having the fruit on an empty stomach. So I often tell patients yes, have fruit with lunch and just have it after you eat your lunch, immediately is the last thing that you eat so that it's not raising your blood sugar as much. I love doing that myself too. Again, I want to point out that a spike in blood sugar after fruit is not failure. That is your physiology. That is what is meant to happen. What matters most is the pattern, not a single number. Also, there's many studies that suggest that whole fruit intake is associated with lower disease risk, and fruit supports long-term health. I want everyone to remember that you have permission, not even from me, but give yourself permission to enjoy fruit, especially the fruits you love, whether it's fruits from your culture, nostalgia, seasonal fruits, like enjoy them. And if you see that your blood glucose goes up, experiment with pairing those fruits with the fat, with the fiber. That's why I love pairing apples with peanut butter. It really does make a difference for so many people. But at the end of the day, we do not want fear of glucose numbers to take away your joy. So I hope this mini-sode was helpful for you. I hope it gave you permission to enjoy fruit with a couple of strategies for making your blood sugar more stable if you're someone who tends to have elevated blood sugar after eating fruit. So enjoy. And if you're looking to work with a dietitian, definitely check us out at Diabetes Digital. We accept insurance, all the major insurances, including Medicare. But I will say Medicare, you need a diabetes or chronic kidney disease diagnosis. But other than that, Medicare. And we recently got a network with Medi-Cal, so specifically Alameda Alliance in the Bay Area. So definitely check us out. You can book a visit at diabetesdigital.co/book and sign up to work with one of our lovely dietitians. All right, that's all for today. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode. If you're interested in nutrition counseling with one of our expert dietitians to help improve your prediabetes or diabetes, visit us at diabetesdigital.co.
Also, if you found our conversation helpful, do us a favor and rate and review this podcast on iTunes, plus share with someone who might find this helpful. You can also connect with us on Instagram at diabetesdigital.co.
And tune in every Wednesday for practical, inclusive, and culturally humble diabetes insights. We'll catch you later. Bye.